Hello, my crafty friends. It's Crystal with Happy to Plan. I am going to be working in my Holly Hobby Junk Journal. Today, I am going to be picking out the different papers and getting them cut and put into the little booklets. So I decided I was going to do a voiceover for this particular video because it took me a while. I had probably about 2 hours of footage to go through, so I figured it would just be easier to do this as a voiceover. Okay, so the first thing that I'm doing is I bought this Holly Hobby book at thriftbooks.com. I think it was about like $3 or $4, I want to say, and it was a little bit bigger than I had originally thought it was going to be. But I ended up really liking how I ultimately used the book for my journals. So I'm going to go ahead and just flip through the pages. I was basically kind of looking for a page that I could use that I could use for like the middle center section, but then I also wanted to find a page that would look good folded and then, basically put into the book. So it took me a while to pick out a couple of different pages that I could use. I am making two of these journals at the one time. Planning on giving one away to a friend of mine. So I wanted to make two of them. So one is going to be for me and one is going to be for my friend. And basically, I found that one page that was just showing you with the girl in the middle. So that is going to be one of the pages that I have for the center section. And then I'll need to, when I cut it, I'll need to make sure that I cut it in a way that doesn't cut that image out. And then I found another one, and that one was kind of like a boy and a girl in the middle. And I really liked that one as well. And I found this one as well. So I was kind of debating on whether or not to use this one versus the other one, so I cut that one out as well. And I've got that little template there that you'll see me kind of using as a way to help me know if it's going to work in regards to the photo, because I didn't obviously want to cut like things off of the picture. All right, so then the other way that I decided that I was going to use it is the book came when I tore the book apart, there was sections of the whole entire book, two different pages. So I was able to fold one page over and then have like flaps in the book. So I know it's really hard to see what I'm doing, and I apologize for that. I guess I should have probably backed the camera out a little bit, but obviously I didn't know that until I started filming the footage for this. So as I was saying, I went ahead and took the piece of paper and was kind of measuring it out. Again, kind of keeping in mind how I would be able to see the photo or the image in the book, given that I had to cut quite a bit of it off. So I just folded them over and um, and then I'm going to trim it up. I don't know if I quite trim it up now or I think I wait until a little bit later in the video to do that. So you'll see that here in a second. So I'm just folding it and just making sure that it's working. I do want to also just say that I am using a new mic for my voiceover. So I'm not 100% sure what the quality of the voiceover is. I hope that it's better because it is like an actual mic. Um, that I'm speaking into right now. So I'm hoping that the voiceovers are a little bit better, but just let me know in the comments if you see any difference. I don't know if you will or not, but if you do, let me know. All right. So that one image of that I was just showing, that one right there, with the girl in the blue bonnet kind of thing, that image to me is like the image of Holly Hobbie. That's like when I think Holly Hobbie, that's the image I think of. So I really, really wanted to make sure I had that in the book. So, and it was a little bit difficult because she was quite large on the page, but I figured I'd rather have her cut off a little bit than not in the book at all. So again, I'm kind of doing the thing where I'm folding it over and making flaps in the So they're kind of going to be fold outs in the book. And then I then folded this piece over a couple of times. So basically, when I put it in the book, it'll have two little flappy things on each of the pages. And again, just kind of flipping through, seeing what other images I could potentially use. I definitely wanted to use the paper that came in that, so the very first page of the paper. So it's sitting there actually, I'm pointing to the screen, like you guys can see what I'm pointing to. But it is sitting there in the corner with that yellow paper with the little brown little silhouettes of the Holly Hobbie image. So I that also came from that big book. And if you had watched my original, like one of, I think it was the last video that I did for the Holly Hobby series, and I am doing a full series on this. I'll leave the link to the playlist up here in the little corner so you can see that playlist if you want. But I did mention that I ordered two books from the uh, thrift books, and I only received one of them. But great, I actually did receive the other one, so I'm so excited. I did get the other one. So I may also include images from that book as well, and I'll make sure I show that to you in another video if I do end up using images from that book. All right, so now I've kind of switched gears here, and I'm starting to work on putting in the different elements of the book. So there's quite a bit of different types of book pages that I wanted to have in here. I did go through that a little bit at my first video, kind of walked through the different types of pages that I was going to have. So one of them was a quilt book that this particular book had a quilt. It was basically like a book of how to make this specific quilt. And the quilt had kind of a Holly Hobby type theme to it. You can see it there in the picture. I mean, it's definitely not a Holly Hobby quilt, but it kind of looks like that. So I thought that this would be kind of just a cute little page to add to the book. And so I just cut up a couple of the different pages that I wanted to include. And when I looking at those types of pages, I was trying to focus on like having a page that would look good from four different pages. So when you fold it in half, right, it turns into four pages. So it turns into two pages front and back. And so you really have to pick a page that kind of has good images on all of those pages. So that was kind of the whole point of what I was trying to do there is just make sure that the images that I had were all cute on all sides. All right, so now I'm kind of going through the different pages that I have and just showing that I have those two stacks of books. So again, I'm making two books, so each book has the kind of the same types of papers in it. And so I'm just kind of flipping through just to make sure that I had enough of each of those different types of pages. And then I have a bunch of tea-dyed pages that I'm going to kind of add in as fillers for the book to kind of fill it up. All right. So now it's time to cut all the pages. So this is a little bit of the challenging part for me because, you have this one page and it's definitely typically bigger than the actual book that you're using. So you've got to really figure out where it is that you want the page to be cut. And sometimes folding it in half like that I just did doesn't work because sometimes you have to off center the fold so that the image that you want is in the right spot. So that one was fairly easy. So I just folded it and kind of trimmed it up. You do see there, I'm not sure if you can see, but there's like little gray strips of washi tape on the cutter. And I put that there specifically so that it would just be easier for me to remember what the dimensions were. So one of them is obviously the horizontal line and the other one is the vertical line. Now, with that book that I was just using, that page that I was just using, that came from a Sears Robux calendar or catalog that my friend had given me, and one of the pages that came in the book was one for like motorcycles, for bicycles, and I wanted to have another type of that type of thing, and gratefully my friend gave me one in Happy Meal, so I thought that was perfect because it had like pearls and kind of like old like hats and stuff. So I thought that was really perfect. But I wanted to have both of those in the book. So I wanted to have the bicycle one in each of the books and the pearl one in each of the books. So I just cut it in half, and I'm just going to make it a little half sheet in the book. So you can see I have some paper here that's from an old, really old children's um, dictionary page. And so you could see I was kind of going back and forth when I was cutting it, because again, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't cutting a lot of the images that I wanted out of there. So what I did was I kind of cut one side, and then I cut the other side, and then I cut one side until it actually fits the little parameters or the little dimensions that I need. And then this is another trick that I do often is I use my cutter as a bone folder, or a what are they called? What's those things called? I can't remember what they're called, but the fold line thingies. I don't know. I can't remember what they're called. But you could see that I kind of use the edge of my where the cutter goes in as a like a place to help me put the fold. So again, just kind of folding them up. And then when I do the bone folder, when I kind of fold it down, I don't fold it down too hard. Like I don't make it a real hard crease. I do leave it a little bit wide just so that it doesn't, when I put it in the book, it needs to have a little flexibility in that fold. Okay, so this is really cool. I love that paper. It was, I think it's gift wrapping paper, and that actually came in the kit, and I was able to cut it so I actually have a whole like piece that I'm able to potentially like make it an envelope or a um, like a pocket or something with. So I'm excited about that one. All right, so this one was a little bit more difficult because I really didn't want to cut any of it off, but I did have to end up cutting. It's basically like an old registration form, like a guest registration form. And so I was having some difficulty, but again, I did that back and forth method of like making sure that I didn't cut too much of the image off. And for this one, I really wanted to have the holes at the top of the book. So instead of cutting it, I just basically folded it up, and then it's going to be like a little pocket on the one side. And then the holes will be at the top of the book. I just thought it would be fun to be able to like string some ribbon through the holes and then have it kind of dangling out. So hopefully that works. All right, so here is the really hard part. This was really super hard because I kept going back and forth about cutting and where to cut it and kind of measuring it out and just kind of figuring out exactly where I wanted to cut the pages. So I just kind of mark it and put that on there, and then I kind of looked at each of the pictures and just made sure that I wasn't going to like chop somebody's head off, or you know um you know so I really was really careful when I was cutting this one. And then I cut that, and then it just kind of folds out. You can kind of see it kind of folds, has a couple different little folds in it. So I was happy the way that that one turned out. And now I've got to go back in and get all the other ones done. So again, it was a little bit challenging to do this because I just didn't know quite how I wanted to cut each of the books. So this one, I really wanted to make sure that I kept the inside, her hat, like I didn't want to cut her hat off on the inside. So I had to cut the hat off of the girl on the other side, but again, I think that's okay. I think it all worked out. All right, so now that I have all those pages cut up, what I'm going to do is just add some filler pages. Obviously, I want this to be a journal, so I want to have journaling space. So what I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to be adding some pockets and tucks and things like that, but I also wanted to add some additional little places, papers too, in there for actual like journaling and things. So I've take some of this tea dye paper. I don't actually tea dye my own paper. I get it from Vintage Polkadot or Polkadot. I always forget the name of her shop. But yeah, it's Vintage Polkadot. And her name is Emily, and it's the best deal I've ever found online is through her shop. And I'll link that down below so you guys can check her out if you want to. She doesn't always have it available, but when she does, it's typically the best price I've seen ever, at least from the searches that I do on Etsy. So yeah, so now you can kind of see I'm going to flip through, just make sure that they're all kind of folded and looking how I want them. Now there's the page that was like I'm so excited about this this page. So I basically folded it in half because I wanted it to not be, I wanted the image to go the right way. So I folded it in half and then I cut off some of the top, which is nice again because I can use that piece for other things like journaling cards or pockets or something like that. So now what I'm basically doing is kind of organizing them into different piles. So kind of just making sure that I have one Holly Hobbie image in each of the different signatures, and then kind of making sure that maybe I have like one dictionary page in each of the signatures, and one like um, cute little other page, and I'll like that one in there, and then so just kind of spreading them out so they're all kind of different. And I do plan on doing a 3 signature book, and I am planning on doing it in a using a Reader's Digest old book. So yeah, you'll see there I'm kind of flipping through, and one of the other things I struggle with when I'm making journals is how many book pages do you put in the book, right? Now, I watched Gail Augustinelli, and her typical like books that she does is like she says usually like 15, like is 12 to 16 is kind of where she goes typically. So that's kind of the rule I use. If it has like a thicker page in it, I probably go on the lower side. But then if it has like thinner pages, I can go on the higher side. But I usually do like 14 pages usually, like 14 pieces of paper in the book, each signature. But then because I always feel like that's too thin when I'm making the journal. But then I always have to remember, wait, it's going to bulk up because you're going to put tucks and tags and different ephemera in it. So it's going to bulk up. So you do need it to be a little bit thinner at the beginning so that you can bulk it up with all the other stuff that you're going to put in it. All right, so now I'm going to work with the tea dyed paper here, and I'm going to um, basically just be picking some pages out and cutting them and going through and kind of filling up the page with the different pieces of tea dye paper. So I have been talking for 18 minutes straight. It's funny because when I do these voiceovers, I feel like I have to talk the entire time. And I know I don't. I know there can be times when I'm silent and you can just watch the video. But for some reason, I feel like I have to talk the entire time. But anyway, you can see that I'm kind of, using again my cutter as a bone folder. And I know that's not what they're called. I can't remember what the little actual thing that you use to fold it is. I don't know why I can't think of the word for that is. Um, but anyway, so you can see here, I'm just kind of flipping through and showing you the different pages. And what I try to do is I kind of put in like one of the quote unquote fancier pages, and then I put a tea dyed piece of paper in, and like two like tea dyed pieces of paper, and then I put a fancy piece of paper, and then two tea dyed papers. So that's kind of how I construct it. And you could see you had seen there a little while ago that I was like counting the pages because I wanted to count them, and just I always worry about having too many, and I always worry about having too less. But anyway, that is really everything that I'm going to show you in this video is just kind of going through and my process of how I pick and select and cut and the pages. So we will see you again in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.